Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day's going wonderful. I'm so glad you're joining me for Try It Out Tuesday. Today we are going to shop the stash. We're using stash items to create our card. We're going to create a Just Because card, and we're going to jump in and get started first by creating our background. For my card today, I'm using Spellbinders Fog cardstock. It's an A2 panel, which means it's 4 1/4 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. And I always want something in my background, whether it's texture or embossing folder or a background stamp. And today we're going to do a stencil. This is the Simon Says Stamp Extra Large Rose Bouquet. This is such a pretty stencil. I already have a little bit of pixie spray behind it. That's why I kept it on my packaging. But I'm going to layer this, and I want it to be on the bottom right corner. I'm going to create a subtle background using a white pigment ink. This is the Hero Hues Unicorn. Simon Says Stamp just came out with a fabulous white pigment ink pad. You could use that for the same effect. This is an older ink pad, so I wanted to use this up before I jump in and use my new one. So that's the reason I'm using this. But all I'm going to do is ink up, kind of do a little shimmy with my ink pad. So we just have a little bit of variant in our background, and I just love the way this looks. The pigment inks do pull back, so this looks really pretty now, but it's going to really fade. I'm going to set this aside. Since this is a pigment ink, it's going to take a little bit of time to dry. And then we are going to work on our weaving. I have two colors I'm going to use to create my woven pattern, and then I'm going to place the woven pattern we recreate in a frame. To create my frame, I'm bringing in a scalloped rectangle die. This has stitching, and then it has a scalloped edge, and I'll place that on a piece of white cardstock, and then I'll take a rectangle die. I'm going to paste this in the middle. I will tape this down, making sure it's centered, and I'll create my frame this way. I'll run this through my die cut, and while we're die cutting, I'm also going to die cut my sentiment for my card. This is the Smile Sugar Script. I don't know if they still have this or not, but any sentiment die that you have would work. And I'm going to die cut that out with some Spellbinders Fog cardstock. Okay, I'm going to create a frame and die cut out my sentiment, and I'll be right back. This is what my frame looks like. And I also trimmed down a piece of white cardstock to fit behind my frame. You can see it just fits behind that scalloped edge. I'm going to put this off to the side, and I'll take this panel and I'll take my colored cardstock. This is Spellbinders Waterfall, and this is Spellbinders Fruit Punch. I thought we'd create a bright background. I'm going to place these two together. These are A2 panels. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and I'm going to create some strips, some 1/2 inch strips. So I'm not sure how many I will use, but I think 6 is a good number. I think will work. It's better to have more than less. To create the woven pattern, it's very easy. I'm going to bring in some score tape. You can use your tape runner if you want. I'm going to add some score tape at the very top of this panel, because I'm using score tape because I don't want it to move. I want my pieces to stick, so it's just going to help me with aligning. And then we'll start off with our fruit punch strips. I'm going to add it all the way to the left, lining up, but I'll tack it down. And I'll line this all the way up to the right, and I'll tack that down, and then I'll fill in the rest. Let's see. I don't think I want that big of a gap, so I'm going to do a little scooting. I'll scoot this over here. Okay, let's... There, I have just a little, I wanted just a little bit of a gap. So I have some extra room over here, but I'm not going to be too concerned about that because we're going to end up trimming it anyway. But I do have a little bit of a gap. If you hold it flat, you can see the white in between. Now's the fun part where we get to do a little bit of weaving. I'm going to take my waterfall and I'm going to go under the first one, under the third one, under the fifth one, and I'll slide it up to where that score tape is. And then with our next strip, we're going to do the opposite. So I'm going to go under the second strip, and then I'll go under the fourth strip. And I'm going from right to left with my counting. And when I pull it up here, I'm leaving a little bit of a gap. I want this to have a little bit of, I want you to be able to see through my pattern. If you don't want to see through your pattern, you would leave out that gap that we put. And then I'm going to just continue on with the process. I'm going to go under the first, the third, and the fifth. I'll slide it up, leaving a little bit of that area showing, and then I'm going to continue on. So I trim down one more. So I actually have 7 of my waterfall. And then I will finish this up here. And there we go. Now we'll take my frame, make sure that I can fit all of these behind my frame evenly. Okay, and I am going to go ahead and take some more of that score tape. And this time I'm going to go over the top once more. And then I'm going to go over the left and the right. And then I'm going to pop off this panel that we added. There's a few strips that are loose, that are not connected to that tape. So you want to make sure that those are straightened up here. Like this one's not going anywhere, but this one's a little bit loose. Okay, I'll remove the release paper off of my score tape, and then we're going to place our frame right on the top. Bring back my bone folder. Now we still have some sections that are mobile. Let me show you. Let's see. This one, this bottom one here can move. So make sure your woven pattern is still secure. And then before I trim this off, I'm going to bring in some foam tape. So now none of my woven pattern are going to shift or move. They're there for good. And you can see I do have some little peekaboo windows, which I like. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim away each of these strips. Just kind of going underneath that frame that we created. I'll do this side. Finishing up my last strip. And I love the way this looks. You could even put darker cardstock. Let me grab a piece of black cardstock. If you wanted to put some black cardstock behind there, you can see those little peekaboos would show through. Okay. So our home panel is done. Hello, I have a visitor. So our home panel is done. I'm going to put this with our background. Okay, and then I want to put a floral, something florally on here. So for this, the floral part, I'm bringing in a die set that I've used before. This is from Simon Hurley. It is called Floral Stems. And I'm going to die cut out with white cardstock this this flower here with these two leaves. The leaves are separate, so I'll die cut out these, which is these two flowers. They're layerable. The leaves. I'm going to turn this into a daisy, so we're going to layer these with our glue. We can do that right now. Just add a little dot of glue. We'll add the second layer right over the top. If you want to fluff up those petals, you could, for a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to use my green ink and my blending brush, and we're going to add a little bit of color to our stem and our leaves. I'm using Memento bamboo leaves. I like the darker contrast, so it goes on these cutouts. So our leaves and our stem are done. And then for our flower center, which way does it go here? It goes this way. I'm going to bring in my Memento black ink. Let me wipe this up here. And I'll do the same thing. I want to do a little shading with this on that bottom portion. Actually, should we do the top? So we have a little bit of color to our flower center, and since we have our black ink out, I'm going to add a little shading on the very bottom of my smile with my black ink. My black ink pad's a little bit on the drier side. I need to re-ink it, but if yours goes too dark, I would bring in a gray ink to do this. So we have our smile and our flower. Now we're going to go ahead and put together our card. We have our background. Now we have all the elements to complete our card. Let's go ahead and adhere our background to the front of our card. I'm going to use my tape runner. And I will adhere this. Just think that's so pretty. Very subtle, but real pretty. And even though we're going to cover most of it up, I just think the way it peeks out, the left and right, it's going to be really pretty on our card. So that's on the front of our card. I'm going to take our panel, and you see how this just peeks out a little bit? I love that. I'm going to remove the release paper off of our woven piece. And I think that's a good spot. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and add my tweezers here. I'm going to add glue behind my smile, and we will place this. And last but not least, before I put my glue away, I'm going to add some little hearts. These are Studio Katia's clear hearts, and they're different sizes. Let me show you. But they're little itty bitty hearts. I'm going to go ahead and add a few here and there. I'm going to place them first, and then I'll glue them down. And that will finish my card today for Try It Out Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining me. Something a little bit different, but I love that woven pattern. It does add a lot of texture, and I love the little print in the background that's peeking out. But thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful day. We will see you soon.